There are moments in life when everything becomes still. The noise fades, the rush quiets, and you are left with a deep silence. But this silence is not emptiness. It is sacred. It is the moment when heaven speaks without using words. It is the quiet that arrives not to comfort, but to signal something divine. This is the space we now enter, a space where God is moving His chosen ones, not in loud, dramatic ways, but in silent, purposeful shifts. When God removes someone He has sent, it is not always visible to others. Sometimes the world keeps spinning, unaware that the one who carried light among them has already been taken to the next place of purpose. Just like when Lot left Sodom, and only after his departure did the sky respond, or when Jesus walked away from the temple, and the walls still stood, unaware that glory had already left. So it is when you, as a chosen vessel, are called to move. The exit is not the end. It is the mark of completion. It means you were faithful, you did what you were sent to do, and now your presence is no longer required in the same way. You did not fail. You fulfilled. If you have been feeling this holy stillness, if you have sensed a strange release in your spirit, then this message is for you. You are not being left behind. You are being lifted forward. Take this moment as confirmation. Not all transitions come with noise. Some arrive wrapped in peace. And in that peace, God is whispering, "Well done. Now rise. It is time to go. Let your heart rest. The mission has been honored. The movement has already begun. You were never here for comfort, but for collision. From the beginning, your soul was never designed for ease and passivity. You were not chosen to blend into the background. You were sent here to bring light into places that had grown too familiar with darkness. And where there is light, there is always a reaction. Many people believe that those who are called by God will walk in perfect peace, constantly loved and accepted by everyone around them. But that is rarely the case. The ones who carry divine purpose often face the strongest resistance. That resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a clear sign of impact. Moses was not received with open arms when he returned to Egypt. Elijah was hunted down after calling out deception. Even Jesus, the most pure and loving of all, was challenged, misunderstood, and betrayed. Their lives were not defined by ease, but by divine collision. You too were sent to interrupt something. Your presence made people uncomfortable not because you were wrong, but because your spirit carried something they were not ready to confront. Could have been your honesty, your discernment, your peace, or your strength. You carried what they were avoiding. You did not come here to rest. You came here to reveal. And every struggle, every tension, and every moment of isolation was proof that you were shaking the ground you were sent to walk on. You are not misunderstood because you lack clarity. You are misunderstood because you carry a message that many have spent their lives trying to avoid. Your very existence is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see themselves in that reflection. So if you have felt out of place, take heart. That means you are exactly where heaven placed you, to bring awareness, truth, and movement. Your exit is a divine strategy, not a retreat. There comes a time in every assignment when the season ends. But endings do not always look the way we expect them to. Sometimes they do not come with celebration or applause. Sometimes they come with silence, with a sudden shift, or with a clear inner release. When God begins to move you, it is never random. It is always strategic. He does not remove His people without purpose. He transitions them when their presence has completed its purpose in that place. Abraham did not leave his homeland out of fear or failure. He left because God said, "Go." Paul did not stop preaching in one region because he was tired. He moved on because the Holy Spirit redirected his steps. These were not retreats. These were divine repositionings. Your departure from certain places, people, or patterns is not a sign that you gave up. It is a sign that heaven has completed that chapter and is now inviting you into the next one. It is easy to second-guess yourself during times of transition. You may wonder, did I do enough? Did I get it wrong? Should I have stayed longer? But those questions come from the mind, not from the spirit. The spirit brings peace. And if you feel that peace in your heart, even if it is mixed with sadness or confusion, that peace is a confirmation. God's strategy is bigger than what we see. What you thought was just your story was actually connected to a much larger plan. Your time in that space was part of a chain reaction that is still unfolding. You were a spark. Now the fire is spreading in ways you may never fully witness. Trust the shift. Your obedience to leave is just as important as your obedience to stay. And when you walk away in alignment with God's voice, you are not losing anything. You are making room for something greater. Your presence was an answer to a crisis. There are seasons when the world does not need a crowd. It needs a voice. And in many moments of your life, you were that voice. You were the one who stepped into environments that were on the edge of collapse. You were the one who noticed the spiritual drought before anyone else spoke of it. Like Noah, you were given insight before the rain came. You saw things in people, in situations, and even in your community that others did not yet recognize. You were the answer to an unspoken crisis. But here is the difficult part. Being the answer does not always mean being accepted. Sometimes it means being ignored until the storm arrives. Noah warned, built, and prepared. Yet no one believed until the first drop fell. In the same way, your warnings may have gone unappreciated. Your sacrifices may have been overlooked. But none of it was wasted. God sent you ahead to prepare a space, to pray over people, to break patterns, or to plant seeds. And now that the assignment is fulfilled, your presence is being lifted. That is not punishment. That is protection. You were never meant to carry their burden forever. Your presence was a temporary grace. And now, as you leave, those who did not receive your help will begin to see what your presence truly meant. It is often after the messenger leaves that the message becomes clear. Just as the ark door closed and the rain began, your departure may awaken those who once ignored your words. But that is not your responsibility to manage. You did your part. You were the answer to a specific need. Now, God is calling you to a new space where your presence will again be the solution to a new situation. Keep moving forward with peace. Your steps are not random, they are directed by heaven. You were not sent to be loved, but to warn. There is a quiet pain that often comes with being chosen by God. It is the pain of not being celebrated, not being understood, and not being accepted. But that pain is not a sign of rejection by heaven. It is actually a confirmation of your calling. Many assume that if a person is truly walking with God, they will be surrounded by love, support, and admiration. But the truth is far deeper. Prophets are rarely honored in their own hometowns. Messengers are rarely welcomed by those they are sent to warn. You were not sent to be adored. You were sent to awaken. An awakening is uncomfortable. Jeremiah warned the people of his time, but they mocked him and called him a traitor. John the Baptist lived in the wilderness and was ultimately silenced by a ruler who could not handle the truth. Even Jesus himself was not embraced by everyone. He was questioned, doubted, and eventually crucified, but he never stopped speaking truth. In the same way, your assignment has not been about popularity. It has been about purity. Your voice has been a mirror to those who have lived in denial. Your presence has revealed what many tried to keep hidden. And that kind of presence often meets resistance, not applause. But you must remember this, your reward does not come from man. It comes from the one who sent you. Every tear, every lonely night, every moment of silence from those you helped, heaven saw it all. and heaven is pleased. You were not sent to be loved. You were sent to be light, and where light enters, darkness reacts. That reaction is not your fault. It is your confirmation. The world will not change as you hoped. When you carry deep purpose and a heart full of compassion, it is natural to hope that the world around you will transform. You want the people you love to grow. You want your community to awaken. You want your efforts to lead to visible change. But spiritual truth reveals something different. Not every heart is ready to receive. Not every ear is willing to hear. Moses stood before Pharaoh with signs, wonders, and the power of God. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hardened again and again. Jesus performed miracles in plain sight, healed the sick, and raised the dead. Still, there were those who chose to reject him and cry out for his crucifixion. The hope for transformation is not wrong. It is beautiful, but you must release the need for results. You are not called to force outcomes. You are called to be faithful. You may have spent years praying for someone to awaken. You may have poured wisdom into people who seem to ignore every word. But just because they did not respond in the way you hoped does not mean your effort was wasted. Seeds are often buried long before they are seen. Sometimes the fruit will not appear in your lifetime, but your obedience planted something eternal. It is time to release the burden of change. You are not responsible for every result. That belongs to God. Your role has been to speak, to serve, to shine, and to trust that heaven handles what happens next. Do not let disappointment turn into discouragement. You were never called to carry the weight of every outcome. You were called to carry the presence of God into every space you were sent. That is enough, and it is more than enough. Your suffering was a message in flesh. There is something sacred about the way you have suffered, not because suffering is good, but because God never wastes it. Some people preach with words, others preach with their very lives. And you, dear soul, have lived a message that could not be written in books. Your scars speak. Your endurance teaches. Your tears have become a language of hope for others. Hosea's life was a living parable. He was asked to love someone who kept leaving him, just to show Israel how deeply God loved them even in their unfaithfulness. Job endured deep loss and heartbreak, not because he had sinned, but because heaven was showcasing his integrity and faith. In a similar way, your pain has carried a message. It has revealed what perseverance looks like. It has shown others that it is possible to keep going even when life feels unfair. It has proven that faith is not just about blessings, it is about trust. There were seasons when you asked, "Why me?" And in the silence, it felt like there was no answer. But now, looking back, you can see the strength that grew from every broken place. You can see the wisdom that came from the waiting. You can see the purpose hidden inside every moment of pressure. You became the sermon. You became the testimony. Others may not have seen the full cost of your obedience, but heaven did. And now your story has become a well of healing for others. What you went through was never in vain. Your suffering birthed a message in flesh, and that message will continue to echo far beyond your presence. It lives in the lives you touched, in the prayers you whispered, and in the strength you now carry. There is a divine mystery in how life reveals the truth. Sometimes the people around you will not fully see who you are until you are no longer standing in front of them. It is not because you lacked value, purpose, or love. It is because many hearts are not trained to recognize light when it is too close. Familiarity often breeds comfort, and comfort can dull perception. You may have walked among people with pure intentions, with hands full of blessings, and a heart eager to uplift. Yet those very people may have misunderstood you, ignored your voice, or misjudged your silence. It is only when you distanced yourself, either by divine guidance or quiet discernment, that they began to sense your absence deeply. The warmth that once radiated near them now feels like a missing flame. The prayers they took lightly now echo in emptiness. The presence they never praised is now a memory that feels sacred. This is a common pattern in the lives of those who carry divine purpose. Their value is not always recognized in real time. The world tends to awaken only when something or someone is removed from reach. But this awakening, though delayed, has meaning. It opens the eyes of others and turns their reflection inward. Your absence becomes a mirror. Your distance becomes a lesson. Your silence becomes a sermon. You were not just a presence, they were being tested through you. Your words, your actions, your ability to remain calm in chaos. All of it was a divine examination for those around you. Would they honor what was in front of them? Would they appreciate the spirit you carried? Would they rise to your level, or would they retreat into judgment? Every chosen one becomes a living test. Your humility tests their pride. Your peace tests their anger. Your truth tests their comfort with lies. Your spiritual fire tests their appetite for worldly distractions. And when people fail to treat you with care, respect, or even simple recognition, they are not just failing you, they are failing their own growth. But take heart. Your removal was not a punishment. It was a repositioning. Sometimes, when the world becomes too loud or the energy around you becomes too hostile, the divine will move you. And this move is not random. It is tactical. It is a strategy from the higher realm. You were not removed because you were weak. You were not silenced because you had no power. You were removed because your presence had already completed its assignment in that environment. When a seed has already transformed the soil, it does not stay buried. It grows upward and outward. Your movement is a sign that something new is being prepared. The war you are involved in is not a war of violence or destruction. It is a war of energy, of light versus confusion, of love versus control. And in this battle, your removal from certain people, certain places, or even certain habits is a tactical maneuver. It is to protect what is sacred within you. It is to place you where your growth will not be stunted. It is to hide you temporarily so your anointing can increase in peace. When a skilled general moves a soldier away from a battlefield, it is not to dismiss the soldier. It is to train them, to protect them from unnecessary harm, or to position them for a more important strike. You are that kind of soldier. Your mission is too powerful to be wasted in ungrateful hands or overlooked by unseeing eyes. Understand this deeply. Your absence is doing work. While you are away, those who were tested by your presence are being confronted with the results of their responses. They are realizing that you were not ordinary. They are waking up to the fact that they mishandled something sacred. But this realization is not your responsibility. It is between them and their own inner journey. You must continue forward. You must focus on the greater mission. What was taken from you will be returned in a better form. What was misunderstood will one day be celebrated. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. You are not falling, you are being pulled higher. You are being aligned with greater territory. You are being placed in a position where your gifts will not be drained, but multiplied. The space you left behind is now a place of reflection for others. But the space ahead of you is a garden of opportunity, peace, and divine strategy. You are moving with intention, not by accident. You are evolving by design, not by pressure. So keep your heart open, but your focus firm. Continue to walk with grace, even when unseen. Trust that every step you take in faith is being recorded in heaven. The divine does not remove anything without replacing it with something better. And though the world may not always recognize your worth in real time, your Creator has always known your value, before time even began. You were not born to beg for recognition. You were born to carry revelation. You were not made to remain in places that could not receive you. You were sent to move, to awaken, to shift, and when necessary, to disappear and rise again elsewhere. Let this be your peace. You were not forgotten. You were moved because your next assignment requires more space, more elevation, and more protection. The war you are part of is larger than you, but your role within it is irreplaceable. You are being led, not lost. You are being preserved, not punished. You are being promoted, not overlooked. Stay steady. What is ahead of you will make everything behind you make perfect sense. Some were protected only because of you. There are moments in life when you carry something more than just your name. You carry a divine presence, an energy of protection that shields not only you but also those around you. Many people who stood next to you, walked with you, or even shared space with you were unknowingly standing under the umbrella of your spiritual covering. Some individuals were receiving blessings, open doors, and protection not because of their own alignment or understanding, but because they were standing close to someone chosen. That someone was you. Your prayers, your obedience, your pure heart, and your divine calling acted as a covering. It was not just about physical safety. It was emotional stability, financial provision, spiritual protection, and even delayed consequences for actions they were supposed to face. All of that was happening because you were present in their life. You may not have seen the full extent of it while you were there, but spiritually you were like a light in a dark room. That light allowed others to see clearly, to breathe, and to avoid many of the things that could have harmed them. But once the light leaves, the shadows return. People do not always understand how important you are until the covering is lifted. But now that you have been repositioned or removed, they are starting to realize that what they once took for granted was actually sacred. You were a temporary disruption. Sometimes, your entrance into someone's life or into a certain environment is not for permanent comfort. It is meant to disrupt patterns. You were not called to fit in like a puzzle piece. You were meant to challenge the cycle, to interrupt toxic traditions, and to shake things that had become spiritually stale. You see, when a divine being steps into a space, that space is forced to change. Your presence exposed what was hidden. Your words made people question what they had accepted as normal. Your integrity made dishonesty uncomfortable. Your kindness made cruelty lose its power. You became the mirror that forced people to look inward. You made the room uncomfortable because the energy you carried was holy. That is why some people misunderstood you. They were not ready to face themselves. They were not prepared to grow or evolve. You represented something they were not ready to become. So instead of embracing your presence, they resisted it. But now that you are gone, the stillness has returned, but so has the old pattern. The room may feel quieter, but the silence is not peaceful. It is heavy. You were a divine disruption, not to bring chaos, but to wake sleeping souls. Even if they rejected the change while you were there, the seed has been planted, and in time it will grow. Your exit does not mean failure. It means mission complete. You showed up, delivered the spark, and now it is up to them what they do with the fire. Your leaving marks the beginning of judgment. There comes a time when grace departs, not in anger, but in wisdom. When you were present, many people had the opportunity to align their hearts, correct their paths, and transform. You were sent as a divine signal, a chance for renewal. You were not judgment, you were the warning before it. You were the sign that said, "This is your moment. Choose the light." But not everyone saw it that way. Some ignored the signs. Some mocked the message. Others chose to remain in old habits, believing that grace would always be available. What they did not understand was that your presence was temporary. And now that you are gone, what follows is the season of consequence. Again, this is not about wishing harm or revenge. It is about the natural law of cause and effect. Every action creates a ripple, and now those ripples are returning. For those who refuse to change, life will begin to reflect the seeds they sowed. The shield has been lifted, the lamp has moved, and now the room must navigate the dark with what it has learned. But for you, your departure is not an ending, it is an elevation. You are being called higher. You are being led into spaces where your light will be honored, where your message will be welcomed, and where your soul will rest in peace and purpose. The atmosphere you left behind will feel your absence, but the place you are going will celebrate your arrival. So walk forward with confidence. You were never just someone passing through. You were a divine assignment. And now that your part is done, the next chapter begins, not in sorrow, but in sacred celebration. You did what you were meant to do, and heaven noticed. To every chosen one listening, your assignment is complete. Do not second guess. Do not linger. Do not apologize. Thank you to those who have walked this journey with us. Every like, every 999 comment, every share has made this mission possible. Dove, now go, rest, transition into your reward. The war is not over, but your role in this chapter is. Final warning. When a chosen one leaves, the atmosphere changes, and those who ignored the messenger will now meet the message without mercy. Comment 999 if this confirmed what God already told you. Like, share, and subscribe for more prophetic clarity. Say this aloud: my mission is complete. I move when God says move. I release what God says release.